She crashed my wedding to destroy it, so I married her worst nightmare instead. Now she's furious. You ever watch someone smile at you while stabbing you in the back? That was my mother on my wedding day. I stood there in white lace and heels that pinched my toes, the bouquet trembling in my hands, and I saw her across the aisle. Veronica Sinclair, my mother, perfectly poised in a pale blue designer dress, pearls around her neck like a noose made of diamonds, and smiling. But not the smile a mother gives her daughter on the happiest day of her life. Nope, this was a smirk carved from spite. One of those smiles that said, I know something you don't. And Frankie, the sick part is, she did. Let me back up. My name's Elise. I'm 28, born and raised in Westchester. Old money, private schools, horseback riding. God forbid I ever broke a sweat. We were the kind of family that had summering plans and a person for everything. Nanny, maid, lawn guy. Life was supposed to look effortless, but nothing was effortless with my mom. She didn't parent, she managed. Everything was strategy to her, status, image, upward mobility. She didn't raise children, she raised assets. I was her golden child. Not the favorite, no. My brother Carter got that title. But I was the one she could polish, the one she could present. I wore the bows, curtsied at events, played cello at fundraisers. She loved me best when I was quiet and pretty. She mapped out my whole life like a campaign trail. Boarding school, Ivy League, marry rich, pop out grandkids, and host charity galas with my last name etched on gold plaques. For a while, I went along with it. When you're a kid, you don't realize you're trapped. You just think your cage is really, really clean. But inside, I always felt hollow, like I was living someone else's life, reading lines in a play I didn't audition for. I went through the motions, debutante balls, perfect GPA, a fake smile for every country club brunch. Then came Peter. Peter Langston was Mom's dream son-in-law, handsome, Harvard-bound, heir to a pharmaceutical empire. He had the charm of a Wall Street broker and the heart of a filing cabinet. We dated for 3 years. He never made me laugh, never made me cry, just existed beside me. Mom adored him. He has ambition, Elise, she'd say, like it was a rare disease. You'll never have to worry. But I was already worrying, because the idea of marrying Peter felt like disappearing completely. Like if I said I do, I'd lose the last shred of myself I'd been clinging to. So I broke it off, quietly. No dramatic exit. Just told him I didn't feel it anymore. That was the first time my mother slapped me, right across the cheek in the solarium, then calmly handed me a glass of lemon water like it was a prescription. You don't get to throw away stability for some feeling, Elise. That's when I started looking for a way out. And then I met him, Malcolm. God, Frankie, the moment I saw him, I knew my life was about to change. It was at this local fundraiser for a community youth center. I was volunteering for networking opportunities. He was there to donate a custom-built motorcycle for the charity auction. He wore a worn leather jacket and a 5 o'clock shadow that looked like he shaved just to let it grow in again. Tattoos peeking out from his collar, hands calloused and stained with oil. The kind of man who worked for what he had. And the first thing he said to me, "You look like you're 2 seconds from punching somebody or crying. Want me to cause a distraction?" I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the clipboard I was holding. He wasn't trying to impress me. He didn't care about my last name or my resume or what country club I was associated with. He just saw me, all my nerves, my restlessness, the girl beneath the pearls. And he liked her anyway. We started dating, slowly, quietly. He took me to hole-in-the-wall jazz bars and greasy spoon diners. He listened when I talked, held my hand like it was something precious. When I told him I didn't know how to change a tire, he didn't tease me. He taught me. That man gave me freedom, not by rescuing me, but by reminding me I was strong enough to rescue myself. When I finally told my mom about him, she didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just froze, like I'd spoken a dead language. "Let me get this straight," she said. "You left Peter Langston for a man who owns a garage? He owns a business, Mom. He gives back to the community. She cut me off with a laugh so cold I swear the windows rattled. "Elise, she said. "You don't marry a man like that. You rebound with him." I packed a bag that night. Malcolm let me move in with him, even though his place was tiny and cluttered and smelled like metal and coffee. It was the first place I ever felt like I belonged. We struggled, sure. I took a job at a nonprofit. He worked long hours in the shop, but we built something together. And when he proposed a year later, in the freezing cold at Coney Island with no ring box, just shaking fingers and a beat-up family heirloom, I didn't hesitate. I said yes, and I sent my mother an invitation anyway. I don't even know why. Hope? Habit? Some part of me still wanted her to show up and surprise me, hug me, say she was proud. But Veronica Sinclair doesn't bend. She breaks. She didn't RSVP, didn't send a gift. I assumed she wouldn't come until the wedding day. Frankie, let me paint you the scene. We got married in an old art gallery turned venue in Brooklyn. Exposed brick walls, string lights hanging like stars, wildflowers everywhere. Our friends showed up in vintage dresses and mismatched suits. It was imperfect and beautiful. And then she walked in. Late, of course, just before the ceremony, wearing powder blue and diamonds, gliding down the aisle like she was the main event. Heads turned, people whispered. She gave me that look, like she was granting me the honor of her presence. I should have told her to leave, but I didn't, because part of me still wanted my mom to see me happy and approve. She smiled the whole time, during the vows, the kiss, the first dance. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd been wrong. Until the music cut out. I was mid-sentence, talking to my best friend near the cake table, when everything went dead. The band stopped playing, the lights flickered, and then I saw the wedding planner rush in from the side room, her face pale. "Elise," she whispered, "you need to come with me." "Frankie, you ever feel your stomach fall through the floor?" I followed her, heart in my throat, and she led me to the hallway where the officiant stood, confused, holding a manila folder. "Your marriage license," he said. "It's missing." "What?" "It was here 10 minutes ago, but now it's gone." I looked at the wedding planner. She was shaking. She said she was your mother, said she needed to check something before it got filed. I didn't think. I ran back into the room, scanning the crowd, and there she was, my mother, sitting calmly at a table, sipping champagne like nothing happened. When our eyes met, she raised her glass and mouthed, "Oops." She had stolen our marriage license. She didn't just want to ruin the moment, she wanted to invalidate the entire marriage. Like if the ink never hit the paper, it didn't count. Like my love didn't count. I saw red. I stormed over, yanked her by the wrist, and dragged her into the hallway. "Give it to me." She blinked, all innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't you dare play dumb. Give me the license." Her voice was calm, syrupy. "Elise, I'm doing this for you. You're making a mistake. You'll thank me someday." "You're out of your mind. You're throwing your life away for some tattooed grease monkey who doesn't belong in our world." I stepped closer. "Good. I don't want your world." Her face cracked then. Just for a second. That perfect, icy mask slipped, and I saw the panic behind it. "You don't know what you're doing." "I do," I said. "For the first time in my life, I really do." She didn't give me the license. I never saw it again, but I didn't need it. We refiled the paperwork that same week, got legally married in a courthouse with 2 friends as witnesses and champagne in paper cups. I wore a white sundress. Malcolm wore his good boots. It was the best day of my life. She wasn't invited. And now she's furious. Furious that I married the man she despised. Furious that I didn't crawl back home. Furious that I chose love over her. She hasn't spoken to me in 4 months, but she still sends Christmas cards. The kind that say, "From the Sinclair family," with only her name printed on it. I used to cry over those cards. Now I just toss them in the recycling, because I didn't marry her fantasy. I married my reality. And Frankie, I've never been freer. If you'd asked me the week after our courthouse wedding how I felt, I would have said untouchable. Malcolm and I were on cloud 9. We spent that night drinking cheap Prosecco on our tiny balcony, watching planes fly overhead and imagining what country they were heading to. We joked that one day we'd hop on one without telling a soul. No itinerary, just freedom. But Frankie, freedom has a cost, and I had no idea mine would come with such a brutal invoice. It started small, cold shoulders, missed calls, cousins forgetting to invite me to things. I chalked it up to the usual post-wedding fade out. You get married, everyone moves on, right? Then I found out about the family brunch. My cousin Madison texted me by mistake. Can't believe your mom said that at brunch, OMG, still awkward the lol. I stared at my phone. What brunch? So I called her. Hey, what brunch are you talking about? Madison went quiet, then cleared her throat. Oh, it was just a little thing. Aunt Veronica invited everyone over last weekend. Everyone? She paused. Yeah, kind of like a family check-in. Nothing big. Was I supposed to be invited? Another pause. Your mom said you were out of town. I wasn't. I was home, watching reruns of the Great British Bake Off and eating leftover wedding cake. Turns out my mom had hosted an entire reconnection brunch with all my aunts, uncles, cousins, and even my brother Carter. And I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. She told everyone I was taking space to reevaluate some life decisions. Like I was off meditating in the woods instead of building a life with my husband. And at that brunch, she told a story about how Malcolm manipulated me into leaving my family, how he pressured me to get married quickly so I wouldn't have time to think, how I cut off contact after the wedding in a fit of rebellion. She spun it like I was having some kind of quarter-life breakdown, like I'd fallen victim to a mid-range cult leader with tattoos and a wrench set. Frankie, it would have been funny if it wasn't so vile. But here's the worst part. People believed her. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to make me feel like the ground under my feet wasn't solid anymore. Carter stopped responding to my texts. My Aunt Denise, who used to babysit me, sent me a message that said, "You'll always have a place with us when you're ready to come home." Home? I was already home. The night I found out about all of this, I sat on the kitchen floor and sobbed while Malcolm held me. I felt like a child all over again. Powerless, voiceless, like my mother had pulled the rug out from under me and wrapped it around herself like a victory flag. I don't get it, I said between hiccups. Why does she hate you so much? Malcolm stayed quiet for a second. Then he said something that stuck with me. She doesn't hate me, Elise. She hates that she couldn't own you anymore. And I'm just the proof of that. It hit me like a slap. He was right. My mother didn't lose a daughter. She lost control. And she was furious that someone like him, someone she saw as beneath her, was the reason. So she made me radioactive. One by one, people started fading from my life. The ones who stuck around did so with caution, like my love was contagious and they didn't want to catch the fallout. I got polite texts on holidays, stiff birthday cards with no return address, and silence where there used to be warmth. Until I got the call from Carter. It was early. Malcolm was already at the shop. I was sipping coffee and watching the rain when my phone rang. Carter? I answered, surprised. Hey, are you okay? He didn't even say hi. I need to ask you something, he said. His voice was tight, cold. Sure? Is it true you're pregnant? I blinked. What? Mom said you were, that you're hiding it from everyone. Carter, I'm not. What are you talking about? She said Malcolm's got you trapped, that you're scared to come home because he'll get angry. I nearly dropped the phone. She said what? That he's isolating you, controlling you, that you're, Jesus, Elise, are you safe? I stood up so fast my chair scraped across the floor. She's lying, Carter. I'm not pregnant. I'm happy, and Malcolm treats me better than anyone ever has. Then why did you disappear, he shot back. Why didn't you come to the brunch? Because I wasn't invited. She said you didn't want to be. Carter, I snapped, have you ever once known me to walk away from people I love unless I had a reason? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I don't know what to believe anymore. And just like that, my brother was gone too. Frankie, I can handle being disowned. I can handle being gossiped about, erased, shunned. But the day my mom turned Carter against me, that was the day something inside me broke. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to destroy the version of me that dared to live without her. I didn't cry that time. I got angry, and I decided for the first time in my life to fight back. There's something that happens when you finally stop trying to earn someone's love. You get dangerous, because once you stop begging, once you stop needing, you start seeing the truth. All of it. The lies, the manipulation, the rot under the wallpaper. And Frankie, once I let go of hoping my mother would ever change, I started digging. I didn't go into it with a plan. I wasn't out for revenge. Not at first. I just wanted answers. Closure. Something to explain why a mother would rather burn down her daughter's life than admit she was wrong. So I started talking to the people she thought I'd never talk to. It started with Rita, our old housekeeper. She worked for our family for over 10 years, left when I went to college. I found her number buried in an old contact list and called her out of the blue. She answered on the first ring. "Elise? Oh my God, is everything okay?" We met for coffee that week. I barely got through ordering my drink before she leaned across the table and whispered, "I was wondering when you'd find me." I blinked. "Why?" "Because your mother's been covering her tracks for years." Rita told me stories I didn't want to believe but somehow already knew were true. Like how my mom used to have my phone checked by the IT guy at Dad's office, or how she paid off my first boyfriend to ghost me senior year because he wasn't Ivy material, or how she had a burner phone she used to contact certain people she didn't want traced. But the worst? "She used to spy on your dad," Rita said. "Had a P, I follow him around New York for months." "What? Why?" "She thought he was cheating. Turns out she was projecting." Apparently, my mother had a long-term affair with a married man, someone from the same country club she dragged us to every Sunday. It lasted for years. Dad found out. They almost divorced, but she guilted him into staying, told him it would ruin the family's image. That was the year I turned 12. I remember that year. I remember Mom being jumpier, shorter-tempered. I remember my dad sleeping in the guest room. I remember asking if everything was okay, and her saying, "Stop being dramatic. Families go through things. Families don't bury things, they fix them, or they fall apart." I left that cafe feeling like my whole childhood had been one long press release, carefully curated and full of half-truths. But now I had evidence. I had a crack in her perfect facade, and I knew just where to hit it next. I found the PI. It took a few weeks and a lot of awkward phone calls, but I tracked him down. Retired now, living upstate. When I said my mom's name, he went quiet. "You're her daughter?" "Yes." Jesus. He didn't tell me everything, client confidentiality and all that, but he did confirm the affair. Even remembered the man's name, Howard Whitmore, a corporate lawyer, married, 2 daughters. Then he said something else. "She didn't just have me follow your dad, she had me follow you." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. "What?" "Senior year, and again your first year of college. Said you were getting distracted. Wanted a report on who you were seeing, where you went, even your grades." Frankie, my own mother hired a stranger to follow me around campus, like I was a threat or an investment she was monitoring. I hung up and cried in the parking lot of a Trader Joe's for 20 minutes. But when I stopped crying, I started plotting. I wasn't going to beg for peace anymore. I was going to take it. The next family event was my cousin's baby shower, hosted at my Aunt Denise's house. Suburban palace, manicured lawn, enough catered food to feed a wedding. I hadn't been invited directly. Madison sent me the details after a bottle of wine and a guilty conscience. "You didn't hear it from me," she texted, "but if you show up, she can't not acknowledge you." So I did. I wore a yellow dress and brought a hand-knitted baby blanket I found on Etsy. Walked in like I belonged, because I did. Heads turned, conversations stopped, and there in the middle of the room was my mother. She froze when she saw me. And I swear, Frankie, the silence that fell over that room was biblical. I didn't give her the chance to recover. I walked straight up to her, smiled and said, "You forgot to invite me." Again. Her eyes narrowed. Elise, this is not the place. You're right, but I figured if you're going to keep lying about me, I should at least be present. People were watching now, pretending to sip drinks, pretending not to eat this up. I know about Howard, I said quietly. I know about the PI. I know you had me followed. Her face went white, just for a second. Then the smile snapped back into place. You sound unwell. No, I said. For once, I sound exactly like you do behind closed doors. And then, Frankie, I pulled out my phone. I recorded our last conversation, the one where you said Malcolm manipulated me, the one where you said you'd make sure I came crawling back. I wasn't bluffing, I really had. The night she stole our marriage license, she left me a voicemail afterward, rambling, triumphant. She didn't realize she was putting everything on record. That message was still saved. I turned the screen toward her, didn't press play, just let her see that I could. You're blackmailing me? She hissed. No, I whispered. I'm warning you. You come for my marriage again, you ever spread another lie about Malcolm or me, and this goes out to the whole damn family group chat. Audio, screenshots, names. I'll burn the whole illusion to the ground. Her lips parted like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just turned and walked away. I stayed for the rest of the shower, and for the first time in months, people talked to me. Tentatively, carefully, but still, they saw me. Not the villain my mother painted me to be. I didn't out her that day. I didn't have to. Because the seed was planted, the image was cracked, and soon the truth would start leaking through. It wasn't a single moment. It wasn't a screaming match or some dramatic scene where I threw a drink in her face and stormed out. The end came slowly, quietly, like a room emptying out after the music stops. After that baby shower, the temperature around me started to change. People who had ghosted me began to circle back. A few tentative calls, invitations to lunch. I didn't know what to believe became the go-to phrase, like it excused everything. Some of them genuinely didn't know. Some just didn't want to pick a side until it was safe. But the tide was shifting, and my mother knew it. She didn't confront me right away. No texts, no voicemails, just silence. That was her go-to move when the narrative slipped from her control. She'd vanish and wait for the guilt to bring people back. But I didn't reach out. For once in my life, I let the silence stand. And then came the letter. Handwritten, delivered by courier. Thick ivory paper with her name embossed at the top. Elise, I'm deeply hurt by your behavior. You've humiliated me. You've aired private family matters in public. This is not who you are. I raised you better. Frankie, I laughed out loud reading that line. This is not who you are. She was right. It wasn't who I was. It was who I became when I finally stopped trying to be the daughter she could parade around like a trophy. I wrote back, just one sentence. You didn't raise me. Control isn't the same as love. I never got a reply. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, because a few weeks later, I got a call from my father. Now let me explain something. My dad was always kind of absent. Not in a cruel way, just emotionally distant. He worked long hours, traveled often, and when he was home, he let my mom do all the talking, for both of them. I'd always assumed he either didn't know how bad it was or didn't care enough to step in. But that day, he called me. Elise, he said, voice thick. Can we talk? I agreed. We met at a cafe halfway between their estate and my apartment. He looked older than I remembered, smaller, like someone had deflated him. He didn't order coffee, just sat there staring at his hands. I owe you an apology, he said eventually. I should have protected you from her. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was full of cement. I thought keeping the peace meant staying silent, but I see now that silence is just another kind of cruelty. He told me things I didn't know, like how he'd tried to leave once, years ago. But my mom had threatened to go after him financially and socially, said she'd paint him as the unfaithful one, destroy his relationships, ruin his business contacts. He stayed. Not for love, not even for us, out of fear. She's not well, Elise, he said. She never has been. I just didn't want you to know how much of our life was built on pretending. He said he was planning to leave again, this time for good. He had a place in Maine, quiet, far away. He invited me and Malcolm to visit someday. I told him I'd think about it. As we stood to leave, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, I hope you know I see you now, and I'm proud. It was the first time in my entire life I'd heard him say those words. I cried the whole train ride home, not because I was sad, but because something inside me had finally been released. That night, Malcolm and I sat on the fire escape eating Chinese takeout, watching the city glow beneath us. I told him everything, about the letter, the meeting, my dad's apology. You okay? He asked, and I nodded. I think I am. Then I turned to him and said, I want to change my name. He blinked. What? My last name. I don't want to be Elise Sinclair anymore. He didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He just took my hand and said, whatever you want, I'm with you. 2 weeks later, I filed the paperwork. I became Elise Hart, the name I'd taken when we got married, now officially mine. Not a symbol of ownership, but of rebirth, because I wasn't her daughter anymore. I was me. I don't talk to my mom now. I don't think I ever will again. People ask me sometimes if I miss her, if I wish things were different. Here's the truth, Frankie. I miss the idea of her, the fantasy of a mother who wanted me for me, but I don't miss her, and that's how I know I finally healed. But damn, it still stings to say it out loud. Some wounds don't scar easy. You want the meter running while I sit here a minute? 'Cause I think I just needed to let that go. Thanks for listening.